Whether your pack comes together once a month or every week, the Cubmaster still needs to plan it. So what does that look like? Well, we're going to get into that today. Welcome to Scouting on Purpose, the only podcast for leaders looking to grow and improve their unit. I'm your host, Mark Cherry, and I am passionate about the scouting program. And in my 10 years, I have learned a few tips and strategies that, when used, will improve your unit, because a quality program is no accident. Before we dive into today's topic, let's talk about today's camp gear. Today's camp gear is the Bluetooth speaker. Now, when I first started camping with the boys, I did not think to have a Bluetooth speaker, and it was okay for a while. But then eventually, having some music going in the background, or just to enjoy being in the outdoors, music started to become something we wanted. So one year, my sister-in-law got me a Bluetooth speaker for Christmas, and that has drastically changed my camping time. So when it comes to purchasing a Bluetooth speaker, there are some qualities we want to look for. The first being obvious, we want to look for a Bluetooth speaker that is water resistant, because let's face it, we're outdoors, so chances are it's going to rain on us. And I'm in Texas, so it could rain on us when we don't even expect it to. You also want it to be drop resistant, because we are around a bunch of youth who have the tendency to be clumsy. Having a drop resistant speaker is almost a necessity. And personally myself, now this is where we may all differ, I prefer a compact speaker. Now the speaker that I have is quite loud for a size it is. It is roughly the size, or half the size, of a Coke can. And it's fun. I like having that speaker here. I could just turn it on and have some music going in the background, and while me and the adults are having conversations, or while we're overseeing the scouts, ensuring that they're not running around with hatchets. A Bluetooth speaker is today's camp gear. So like I stated, that packs meet in two different ways. These are the ways that I've seen it. If your unit is different, please let me know. But they meet two ways. One, they meet together. So as a pack, they will have a flag ceremony, and then they will branch off into their dens, and this happens every week. And then other times, the dens meet, and they could be separate depending on what advancement that den is working on. But they'll meet separate. Each den will meet at a separate place, or in the same place, just in a different part of the room. But it depends on what that den is working on that week. If they're doing a cleanup project or a service project, they could be meet off-site. And then once a month, that pack will get together and then have a ceremony where the flags are raised. Then they give away advancements and the awards. And then they'll probably do something, but we're going to get into that. First thing you do when you plan a pack meeting is you want to actually plan it. Cubmasters have to plan the meeting prior to the meeting. A successful pack meeting is one that the Cubmaster has put thought into and has planned it out prior to the scouts showing up, usually at least a week in advance. It could be more, depending on what they're going to be doing that month. Write down your plan, guys. It helps to put it down on paper. And I'm going to give you some areas, I'm going to give you an outline to help you plan this meeting. In my experience, planning the meeting, sitting down, writing it out, opening, ceremony, who's doing the oath and the law, gives it a structure. Having it written down just makes it a little easier to plan. And then come to the day of, you need to be enthusiastic. You're dealing with the elementary side of scouting. And if it's not fun, and I mean fun, they get bored very quick. So as a Cubmaster, don't be afraid to show up in a goofy hat. Being a Cubmaster is part adult and part kid. You literally get away with being goofy and silly, and the Scouts love it. They think it's the greatest thing in the world. But one of the biggest pieces of advice that I have, as far as the day of, is whatever has happened that day, shake it off. The Scouts are going to see if something is bugging you, something's bothering you. And as an adult, we want to give them the best program we can. And that may mean just shaking off what's gone on that day and just focus on the Scouts. Who knows? That could make your day turn around. On your plan, here's an outline. So, for those of you that are not driving, grab a piece of paper and a pencil and follow along. Start with your opening. This is where the Scouts are going to present colors. And I would recommend to use a den. Now, don't use the lion den on the first one of the year. Use your Weeblos, your arrow of light. Perhaps maybe getting the lions to help them, to go along with them. So now they feel a part of it, and they're learning by doing. The next thing you want to do is your prayer. There should always be a prayer in your meeting because a Scout is reverent. Now, what prayer you choose is completely up to your unit or the Cubmaster, but there should always be a prayer. And then you want to do the oath and the law. Now, the oath and the law, I've seen it a bunch of ways. You could have a Scout lead it, or you can have the adult lead it. Personally, myself, I like when the leader does it. So if this is the pack, that would obviously be the Cubmaster. Or if it's the troop, the senior patrol leader. Because you are re-swearing in on my honor. You are recommitting yourself to the oath and the law. And there's just something special about when your leader does it. But your unit could do it any way they want to. But following your prayer, you want to do your oath and your law. Now, here's a little secret sauce that I discovered that this pack just absolutely loves. And that is separate. Now, I don't mean the den separate. I mean take the youth, the Scouts, to a different part of the building or even outside and have an activity to do with them. This is where the Scout games come in. Now, you can do Scout games that have a meaning, that teach a lesson like team building, that not everybody has to win. There are games that are designed so that there are no winners, to teach them about teamwork. And then there are games that are just for fun. As the Cubmaster, sit down and find a game. The internet is full of them. But find a game that you can appease, so to speak, those Scouts. And while this is going on, the committee chair is with the adults going over the upcoming events. Perhaps next week is the day of service. So this is when we're going to discuss. This is where we're going to meet, and this is what we're going to do. Maybe dues are due. Maybe it's time for dues. This is where the committee chair can have the attention of the adults, and the adults don't have to wrangle the Scouts. Because the Scouts don't want to hear about all the things that are coming up. They want to go have fun. This is also, going back to last week's episode, this is also where the committee chair can ask for adult involvement. Hey, we have our annual space derby coming up. and we need help chairing this event. We need help with refreshments. We need help with snacks, whatever. And then the adults can slowly ease their way into a leadership role. But this also has a side effect of helping the scouts get the wiggles out. So that when y'all come back together, you're not wrangling a bunch of scouts who are just hyped up on energy. Now, when you come back together, because you will come back together, have the scouts do a song reaffirming that we are supposed to have fun and then it's okay to sing to help build that scout spirit like we talked about. And if you want to maybe surprise the mom and dads with a song, this is a good time during the activity time to go over that song. Guys, I just learned a really cool Follow Me song. Let's teach the parents. They're going to enjoy this one. This is going to be awesome. But whatever you do, guys, you need to plan in advance. The more planning you put into it, the better the pack meeting is going to be. Another thing you could do is theme the pack meeting. It's completely up to the Cubmaster, but we could actually theme a pack meeting Star Wars theme. Come in your best Star Wars costume. Or it's going to be Cowboy Weekend. Could be anything. Theme the pack meeting. But a word of encouragement to all the Cubmasters that are out there. It may seem like what you're doing is not worth it. I mean, the den leaders get to teach all the cool advancements, but the Cubmasters can too. There are pack-wide awards that you can receive. Take, for example, my first year in Cubmaster. There is a Texas award. There's a little patch that the scouts can get, and they go on their uniform, and they went over the history of the Texas. So there were some requirements to go with it, obviously. One of them was like they had to go visit a historical marker. And lucky for us, our church that we were with at the time is a historical marker. So we just marched down to the church and we visited the historical marker and we talked about what makes it a historical marker. And then we also had to go over like what does the colors of the flag mean. But look into it. And there are awards that the Cub Scouts can get as a pack that you can be working on at your pack meetings. But I know as a Cub Master, we can feel that what we do is not that important. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes for the Cub Master, but the pack meeting is your time to let loose and have fun. The scouts have been in their den meetings learning new advancements and skills. Now's your turn to just let them have some fun. And that's going to make you the superhero. Personally, myself, that was one of my favorite positions, was being Cubmaster. But if there's any takeaway that you take from all of this, I want you to sit down a week before your pack meeting and plan it out. Use the outline that I gave you. If you go back and you listen to this podcast again, cool. If you were driving and you didn't get that, you can always replay. But use the outline that I gave you. Just write one down in a word processor and print off a dozen copies. And just write it down. You don't like that? Wad it up, try a new one. But you have to plan. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Go over to scoutingonpurpose.net, and in the very bottom, you'll see a little box that says message, because we want to hear from you. And I will do my best to help you with what I can. The point behind the podcast isn't just for me to talk into this microphone. It's about connecting the dots. So if you're a new Cubmaster and you need a little help, please feel free to email me. So before we go, get into my favorite section. The dad jokes. Dad, can you put my shoes on? No, I don't think they'll fit me. Did you hear about the fire at the shoe factory? Unfortunately, many souls were lost. So I hope that helps the Cubmasters that are out there and all of those adult leaders that may be wanting to become Cubmaster. It's not a difficult job, and a lot of times we have the tendency to overthink it. If you're waiting for someone to nudge you, take this as your opportunity to be officially nudged to go be Cubmaster. It'll be the greatest time you've ever had. So I have a little confession to make. Scouting on Purpose podcast is a piece of the bigger picture. Those of you that have been to the website have seen it looks a little sparse, and that's because podcast is only going to be a piece of the bigger picture. I have ideas and plans in motion to add more to it, to increase the amount of resources that are available to scout leaders like you. One of those resources is a YouTube channel by the same name, Scouting on Purpose. You can kind of see the common thread with all that. But in there, I'm going to be putting on instructional videos. My help to den leaders. It occurs to me that some den leaders have never put up a tent before. So I do have plans, and I'm working on making videos to help den leaders that need a little help in areas because they've never done that before. But that is all for today's episode. And before we go, I do want to leave you with my deep thoughts. My dog understands several human words. I don't understand any of his barks. Does that mean my dog is smarter than me? Why do we call it falling asleep when we are actually laying down? So, until next week, guys, as always, go out, have fun, and don't forget to scout on purpose.